Good afternoon, Muskegon. Hi, this is Torn into your show for news, information, and more. My name is Gregory T. Roberts. I am your host of the show. My co-host, Melvin Pastor Burns, is ill today, and brother, get well. We are praying for you. The weather outside is like 37 and wet, so be careful. I'll take the 37. It's better than the snow. Today's show. Um, Before I go into today's show, I want to address a couple things. If you are a single man and single woman and have good internet and would like to be on the show for the next couple shows, we're going to be addressing um, what men and women are looking for an attraction for each other. And we're also going to be looking into Christmas presents, what you like, and some of the worst presents. Janae, the producer of the show, told me about she received a pencil sharpener. So we're going to be talking about that in the next couple of weeks. We got also, if you have an event coming up and would like to be on the show as well, you can call Janae. The phone number is 231-727-5007. You can also catch, I know some of you are listening to this on 103.7 The Beat, but you can also catch this on our Facebook pages on M106 Rock and Soul or The Beat. Today, we have to address this issue of mental health, especially this time around the holidays, especially Thanksgiving and Christmas. It is a huge problem. I remember in the fire department uh, going to a lot of suicide or suicide attempts during this time. Um, it can be a trying time. I remember, and I know that for me, my dad died the day after Christmas and 2 days, you know, after his birthday. And so these things come up in the mind, and we as people, especially um, African Americans, Black people, we've been told, um, buck up, um, wipe the tears away, put dirt on it. Or we were told to address those issues at church and stuff like that. But I'm going to bring in an expert. I consider more than an expert. Um, I can call him anytime and get him on the show to talk about issues. And before the show, we were talking about some of the things that people are going through in some of the sessions that he's had. I was telling them the story about when we were passing out turkeys here. It was the first day that I came out after COVID, and I couldn't say 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish because I was so emotional, and it hit me. Um, so anyway, without any ado, put your hands together for my brother Cedric Scott coming on into the room. Hey, brother, how you doing?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
I want to really thank you for taking this opportunity. You had a busy day today, but you said you would make it, and I really appreciate it.
No worries. Anytime.
I don't know about that green that you're wearing, but
Well, this is representing Lazarus Man, not
okay,
the other team
okay,
you're
okay,
referring to, the
okay.
other institution.
Yeah, you can see I'm ready for that big
Absolutely.
game tomorrow, Michigan and Iowa. Mr. Scott, um, would you tell people a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I'm a limited license psychologist. I'm also the owner of Community Counseling Center, Lazarus Man Consulting. We provide mental health, substance use disorder counseling. We're all licensed by the state of Michigan to do so, and I've done this for more than 20, 27 years. Um, we have three other clinicians work here, all master's level clinicians. New clinician coming on next week by the name of Flory Jackson. Also holds a master's in public administration. So he's very well educated, professional, African American male.
And my son-in-law. I
Yep,
call him my son.
yep, that's right. And a great person, and looking forward to working with him. And I think the community is really going to appreciate him. He
Mhm.
has a great knack and ability to connect with the younger generation, and he understands some of the deep dynamics that our community face from day
Mhm.
to day.
Mhm.
That's the type of individuals who are staffed here at Lazarus, man. And so we're a community counseling center, and we apt to and aim to be that 100%. So
We appreciate you. Let's talk about this time of the season. You just had Thanksgiving. You have Christmas coming up and New Year's,
mhm.
and this is a hard time for a lot of individuals. Can you address and talk about that a little bit?
Sure. High expectation type seasons, the holiday seasons. Interesting, you were mentioning part of the expectations you said with young adults and what the female wants, what the male wants in partners and friends, and then you threw in the slider of presents. Am I getting the right presents? So you throw all those combinations of dynamics into the mix, and clearly you can see how our mental capacity stress to highest level of stressors during this time of year. High expectations, oftentimes with low budgets. So and after
Mhm.
coming off of this major pandemic, or we're still in, but a little bit less severe due to vaccinations and a lot more information surrounding the disease, COVID-19, understanding of it anyway, and how best to prevent it and keep
Mhm.
yourself safe. So it's a little better this year in that respect, but for some, not all,
Right,
not
because
all.
everybody is catching it. I
Yes,
mean,
yes,
for in the
and
household.
we're talking about the health side. We haven't even gotten into the economics.
Mhm.
How so many other people have been devastated financially by it. We had these stimuluses and a lot of packages, and I think people got $2,000, $3,000, and you got some help along the way. But you and I both know, and in your and my lifestyle, $2,000 doesn't go a whole, for not a very long way.
No,
So great,
no.
thank God for it. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah,
However,
I cashed the check.
yes, yes. So you have a lot of dynamics involved in that, in depression and anxiety disorders, and the DSM-4 spells it out very well, clearly. You have to have a certain a level of this debilitating symptoms, if you will, over a period of time,
Mhm.
6 months to a year, et cetera, et cetera. And so this pandemic is what, 18 months old?
And
At least,
and going.
at least. So you can very well see how so many have met that criteria over 18-month period due to the our lifestyle circumstances, and many people with the propensity to have the symptoms in their DNA, if you will,
Mhm.
being a physiological component of the disorder. So uh, clearly, clearly, there has to be a mindset and precautionary processes taken to recognize, understand it, and do something about it.
Let's talk about um, the, the triggers. You talked a little bit about some of the triggers, like the expectations of doing it, but what are some the other triggers? Like, for instance, my father passing away the day after Christmas. So
Grief,
let's talk about triggers.
grief, unresolved grief. Um, Failing, which is simply failing to, or I won't call it a failure. Let's just say the inability at the time to process the grief um, through a healthy, normal processing of it, if you will, and being able to work your way through it and out of it, and
Hmm.
having the ability to recognize it as it comes and do something with it, if you will. At some point or another, you've gained, for example, I'll use myself. I lost my brother. You were aware, John, long time ago,
Hmm.
and I truly at the time could not see that I would be able to work through it, and as time went on, better able to use things of enjoyment,
Mhm.
memories of enjoyment,
Mhm.
places of enjoyment, recognizing those pleasurable moments and using different skills and techniques to recognize the emotions that come from remembrance of him, remembering
Mhm.
of things that we did, things that recognized me of him, voices that sound like him, people that looked like him. All
Mhm.
the above are part of a dynamic or a coping process one has to develop in order to control the effects of the grief. I'm
Mhm.
not I'm not saying that grief is going to ever go away. I don't know.
Mhm.
But according to a diagnostic statistical manual, if there's severe grief over a course of 6 months, then the process hasn't been worked through properly. Let's just put it that way.
Mhm.
Simple term.
I remember being younger, my mom passing at 50, and being, there's no secret that I'm a very religious person. And so at the funeral, my chest is up, and you got to show that man and get everybody through, be that strong tower. And all of a sudden, sometime down the road, I went through a 17-day funk where I didn't leave the house, totally depressed, and never had a chance to, like you said,
Hmm.
properly grieve.
Hmm. So now, so that I don't set the people who what I just said about um, coping and what you just expressed that you experienced, most people, that's a superficial form, in my opinion. I'm going to get some people riled up about that superficial coping mechanism.
Hmm.
That's what we were taught. Not, and you said earlier, blacks, but whites as well. They come in
Hmm.
here all the time. We all are taught that. John Wayne taught us that. Bite the bullet. The cinema taught us that. Real men don't cry.
Hmm.
Those are all superficial masculine characteristics or traits attached to us across the spectrum, which I say superficial because the pain is still there. As a matter of fact, by superficially using that mechanism, that coping skill, it's embedded even deeper.
Wow.
Now, it may work for you to get through this interview by doing that so
Hmm.
that you can distract your way through
Hmm.
this interview. But ultimately, and you can testify to this, is that that pain was still there.
Right.
You did, as a matter of fact, 17 days worth.
Hmm.
Now, what would have happened had you allowed yourself to cry, allowed yourself to grieve, to find someone like myself, or a professional, or a good friend, family
Hmm.
member has a good understanding and knowledge of what happens to you when those things happen and what you're going through. Well, you could have said anything you needed to say without judgment, without
Hmm.
criticism, without redirecting, even saying, "Well, no, don't feel that way. Your mother wouldn't want you to feel that way."
Mm.
No. So
Mm.
there lies the professional skill and understanding and experience comes with understanding and dealing with individuals with grief or that process, and some personal references even. All of us have lost things. If it nothing but a pet, family pet, how
Right.
that you really feel the a high infinity toward. You have to learn to even grieve with that.
Mm.
I've had employees, their dog died. They take a week off
Right.
because
Right.
they're so deeply distraught. Now
We.
you can't marginalize that. That's that individual's emotional feeling, in my opinion. So
Mhm.
I'm speaking just for the record for myself and my
And we as men, um, even more so, like to set ourselves on island because it's nobody's business. I can handle this all by
oh,
myself.
absolutely, absolutely.
Oh,
You're soft for showing these emotions.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
soft.
Or we get this, and I love it. T.D. Jakes said this. Bishop Jakes said this. He said that when somebody dies and people come and say that the person's in a better place and I feel your pain. And he says, people just need to shut up and sit next to you and just hold their hand. Ju-
Absolutely,
just sit down and
absolutely.
just hold my hand and shut up. because you don't know what my pain is.
You don't know what my pain, and you half the time you don't even know what my relationship was with the person that I lost.
Come on now.
So you don't know what they would have said to me. What they may have said to you would be one thing, but what they said to me, you don't know. So you're right. That's an error of thinking when someone an honest to goodness error, if you will. And no malicious thoughts intended. We're just
Mhm.
trying to comfort our loved one or our friend, our brother, but we're making misstatements without the knowledge of it. And so oftentimes you're right. And so if I were to offer any of your listeners or viewers any suggestions, it would be exactly that. Listen, offer your condolences, but don't make inferences. Don't make
Mm.
suggestions of what you're hearing or what you're thinking, because you don't know.
Mm.
You do not know from one person to the next how their individuals will grieve, or unfortunately, how long. Now, I know
Mhm.
this book gives me a date. This DSM, my diagnostic statistical manual, 5 says a date, 6 months, but you don't know. It
Mhm.
may take some 12. That's severe.
Right.
Is it debilitating? Is it causing them the inability to perform a daily task? Those are my criteria, my deeper inspections, if you will. If their life now is being isolated. Now you did 17 days, but you start talking 12 months.
Mhm.
There's going to be some people knocking at your door,
Mm.
and
Right.
so it's not a matter of them just getting a grip, if you will, for the sake of getting a grip. This is so that they can live a more wholesome, fulfilling life.
Talk about a little bit about especially what's going on right now and all the stuff that's being piled on. You have
Oh my
COVID.
goodness.
You have just in Michigan the school shooting.
Hmm.
The pressures of performing during this month, trying to get gifts and all that kind of stuff. Um, just talk about because right now, even politics, people are still piling that stuff on,
Hmm.
and it just keep piling more and more and digging themselves in the ditch. Um, and also, if you are just listening, you're listening and watching Mr. Cedric Scott, and we're talking about mental health. Can you address that, Mr.
Sure.
Scott?
Even let's even slip the adolescents or school age individuals in. You talk about a shooting in school, and these kids in let's say our neighborhood for sure, in our or in our town, are hearing from day to day superficial threats from their classmates. This place is crappy. Hell, I should just come back and do this, and they're saying that in just, but that's I like to say it, you're getting slimed. You're getting slimed with that negativity. It's like going to Universal Studios where they had Ghostbusters and they drop all that slime on you. No matter where you stand in that room, you're getting some. I don't care
Right.
if it's on your feet. And that's people who drive by with the negativities, the threats, and the hate. And so they're not only getting it from their peers, they walk away and they get on their devices and they're seeing and hearing all this negativity as well. One thing I understand about the brain is when it receives a stressors, uh, our brain kicks in a defense or fight or flight mechanisms. And so
Hmm.
now you think about that, they're thinking fight all the time. They're high anxiety, they're high tense personalities because of the threats in the class, stresses on TV, fear and worried about the Christmas presents. What am I worthy? Santa didn't bring me anything, but they brought my classmates something. I'm poor,
Hmm.
so Santa don't love me. You got all these things going on with
Hmm.
this kid at the same time. So now that brain is racing, kicking out norepinephrine, dope, and just kicking it all through their brain, their blood systems. They're all keyed up all the time. If you will, if you ever watch them, you notice a lot of them are that way because they're getting that feed, that constant feed from the devices. Now that's the adolescents. Think
Hmm.
about the adult who's supposed to be providing that surrounding for them of peace, tranquility, or providing gifts, the expectations that society say that you have. Your kids should be able to get this Xbox, new clothing, new shoes, these high-end gifts for Christmas. You can't provide it for them. So now I'm an adult feeling inadequate. What's happening again? Racing up, racing up. So here's where you see the high level of so many individuals suffering from depression and anxiety because of these expectations. Now, key, just for the sake of listeners, is these expectations have to be dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
Our expectations have to be dealt with. Are they real or are
We,
they Memorex? Now, that's
we,
an
have,
old adage.
we, have
But
a, we have a quick question from Michael Anthony Smith from Texas. How you doing, Michael? A 12-month period of grief, depression, etc. Can that person be salvaged or recovered?
definitely, for sure. Now, there should be a professional assessment done for that individual and explore medication if necessary based upon the degree of the depression. You have mild, moderate, and severe. And
Mm-hmm.
so, what a professional assessment will help you ascertain what level that is, as well as whether or not that individual should be referred out for a further medical exam and or prescription for the depression symptoms.
Mm-hmm. What let's walk through step by step. Okay. First, realizing that there is a problem. Would that be one, or is there something else before?
Oftentimes, being willing to accept that you have a problem is probably a different wording for that. And
Okay.
here's why. Here's why. It's kind of like the antics of Catch 22. You know, Catch 22 created civil World War II veterans coming in saying that they were fiending that they were mental ill. Physicians catching on to that. They were fiending they were mental ill so that they wouldn't go to war.
Mm-hmm.
So physicians found that out and started stamping their file, Catch 22, which was an indication that this person's fiending that they were mental ill.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is this: if you are mental ill, how will you know you are?
Mm-hmm.
Catch 22.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, the acceptance of the problem is from Mr. Roberts saying to you, hey, my brother, you know, you've been isolated 17 days, 6 months, 1 year. You're not going to work. You don't like things you used to like. You're not doing the things you used to do. You're feeling sad, down, depressed all the time. You know what? I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I think you might be experiencing some depression. Would you
Mm-hmm.
go with? Would you go to someone? Would you go with me here? Would you check that out? Get that checked out from a professional that you trust better, and see if this if what I'm saying to you is true. Can you accepting? Okay, yeah, you might be right because you're right. I don't, man. I used to fly fish all the time, and now I don't want to go at all. Used to play cards with my friends on Saturdays every other week. Don't do that at all. I haven't done that in 6 months. Now that person's circling around to maybe there is something wrong. Now I'm willing to do something about it. If I
Mm-hmm.
just put that on you, you're depressed. Go to the doctor and get some treatment. No, I'm not. What do you mean? He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know the base first thing about I'm depressed.
Well, let's break this down even more. If I see a person that I think is going through something, what is the tell signs that somebody's going through grief, and what are you talked a little bit of what are some things, but what are some things that I should do as a person to help my brother or sister?
Well, clear sign of someone's grief, they lost something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if their affect has changed, their facial expression, their demeanor, their voice, even their movement,
Mm-hmm.
one of the criteria, people moving, and they are you moving and seemingly slower than you ever thought you were or that you normally do. That's one of the criteria as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find less pleasure in the things you used to find pleasure in?
Mm-hmm.
That's a telltale sign. It's down, depressed. I got news for you. Anxiety. Let's lace that in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Restlessness feeling, can't get right kind of feeling, like on Friday. on,
Right,
like on life, can't get right. Just
right.
can't think clearly, can't swing the bat correctly, if you will. And that all of a sudden appeared. That wasn't your normal disposition. That wasn't your normal motor skills.
Mm-hmm.
You now have that based upon our fact that we're so deeply sullen or so deeply saddened that we just can't get right. I can't shake this funk, if you will. And so those are some indications.
Let's talk about, we talked about a little bit about self-medicating.
Absolutely. The last three individuals I saw today, self-medicating. Either it's marijuana, alcohol. And here's what we're talking about. I know that I'm not myself. I know I'm not feeling the world today the way I normally do. So I'm going to make this better. I know the marijuana makes me relax, makes me eat, makes me sleep, or whatever, makes me dance, cry, whatever I want or affect I want, I'm going to find it in this drug. And this drug is supposed to give that to me. And alcohol, we know it's going to do exactly what it's supposed to do. And what is it? It's a depressant. What do you mean depressant? It depresses our emotions. It depresses our neurological system. It depresses our heart rate, blood blood flow, etc. So what it does also then is it kills the pain. You know very well, alcohol way back 100 years ago was used for anesthetic for surgery.
Right.
For that purpose alone. And so the only problem with the surgery process was that it also thins your blood, so you bled out and died on the operating table more times than not. And so they fortunately found better anesthetics for surgery. But the purpose we use it for, why it's still here, is it makes us feel better. It takes away the pain for the moment. Oftentimes, I'm also seeing individuals who use that to cope, use as coping skills, but they found more troubles with DUIs, OUILs. So now I'm doing substance abuse evaluations on them because of that. And then that's also laced right in that evaluation. They come from substance abuse evaluation because they're sent by the court, but they also are depressed with anxiety. That is the root cause of the OUIL. I was trying to make myself feel better, Cedric, and I was going through some things or this or that, and here I am. So that's the process of self-medicating, make ourselves feel better.
How important? I just saw an article when I got here that the kid that shot up that school in Michigan, that the parents now are going to be charged in that case as well. How important is parents when it comes down to looking at their children and seeing what they might be doing or going through?
Very important, as that those prosecutors are signaling. That's all, as you very well can see, that's a change from our last 5-10 years too. Though you know what I mean. Parents were getting away with saying, "Well, he was in the garage or he was in his room." I never knew that was in there, and so I don't know about you, but when I came up, that my room wasn't all that private, if you know what I mean.
No.
My mother went through everything, so you couldn't hide stuff like bomb making materials in the home or a weapon. For that matter, not even a slingshot. She found that.
Yeah.
If she saw BBs or some small pebble rocks, she knew there was a slingshot in the house.
Exactly.
So that's standard operating procedure for a parent. They're supposed to keep their children safe as well as the community safe. They're responsible. They have a responsibility to the community and the schools to follow up with their children to make sure they're propagating proper thoughts throughout the course of their day. You have to connect with your children. What often is happening, I still work in the school system, so I'm hearing parents come in and say, he's 13 now, he's 14 now. I'm not supposed to wake him up for school. I'm not supposed to tell him to do his homework. He's supposed to do that on his own now. At some point, what I'm getting at here is they're saying, well, I'm done parenting. At this early age. So now that's how you get kids who now think that they have such power in the home that they can bring weapons in, knives, stolen property, et cetera, et cetera. So it's astronomically high for parents' responsibility to continue parenting and policing your environment, especially your children, until they're out of your nest, if you will.
Or I've heard that kids coming back into the homes that the phrase that they use, they're not going to adult out today. They're not going to adult today. In other words, they're going to put it on you. We're not going to adult today.
What?
Yes, that's the new phrase that they're using.
Well, I should know better. I'm sorry, but that was the first I heard of that. Well, I can't wrap my brain around it, especially if you're talking about kids coming into the home. What do you
Oh,
mean by that?
what that means is that I'm not going to be responsible today.
Gonna
I'm
be a
under my,
kid.
yeah, older kids.
Really? Well, good luck with that. Because I don't know if society gives you a timeout, do they, for that?
Mhm.
So if that older kid's not going to be a responsible kid that day, which you have to be, that's your process in evolving as a child. We're trying to evolve you into adulthood, which is simply being responsible for your
Mhm.
actions. Society's not going to give you a pass.
Let me
So
get
that's not
we,
something I would accept.
We got a quick question from Linda Moore. Vine says, excellent informational exchange for the Black community. Thank you, Cedric Scott. This is very important dialogue and it's so timely. Responsibility and accountability. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that response because at times I sometimes feel like I'm on an island in my thought processes in reference to responsibility and accountability. Everyone's making excuses, it seems, for their actions and blaming others for the consequences due to their actions.
Talk about that. Talk about that because everybody's pointing the finger at somebody else.
It goes over to the course of our what you were alluding to when you and I first got on about even politics in our society today. Some of those stressors coming from that, you begin to wonder if up is down and if
Mhm.
down is up because wait a minute, you're telling the rest of society that we should be held accountable for graft or what they call our former president a grifter. You should be responsible for that by prosecution, someone holding you accountable for it, but yet the politicians are allowed to do it. The rich are or famous or connected are allowed to do whatever they want. But yet you turn around to and look at this community who make less than $100,000 a year and are not connected politically, and you want to hold them accountable. But now I look and see that, then I get a mixed message, and I
Mhm.
feel victimized.
Mhm.
So there lies your disconnect from one section or of society versus another.
Mhm.
Now,
Uh,
so
well,
it's confusing.
add to that, and you talked about this a little bit, is that every adult wants better for their children.
Absolutely.
And so we grew up poor. So I wanted better for my children or people in my life. But then there's COVID and I'm sick or I'm recovering or lost a job and all this kind of stuff. But yet I feel this enormous pressure to make sure that there are gifts under the tree, even
Mhm.
if it might not even be a tree. Or
Right.
never even it might not even be food.
So I love you breaking that up because I personally believe, and I get a lot of pushback on this, that every child should have a one gift Christmas. I know. I get a lot
I
of
like that.
pushback. I get a
I
lot
like
of
that.
pushback, and we did as a kid. We did. We got one, and here's the reason why: no one owes you anything. Your life is your responsibility. You're responsible for creating the successes in your life, and here's how that happens. That's me speaking as a father. Here's how that happens. You can do A, B, C, and D, and ultimately you should receive X, Y, Z.
Hmm.
So that's not happening so much as the whole mindset is I'm going to give you everything you need. And furthermore, Greg, what was so bad about uh, that what your folks did to you that was so bad that you don't want them, your children, to have it the same thing or some of the
Mm.
same stuff? What was so bad about teaching you a work ethic? What was so
Right.
bad about teaching you gratitude and humility? What
Hmm.
was so bad about that? Based
Wow.
on understanding also of our family condition, our circumstances. For example, I don't know about you, but my mother and father came from Starkville, Mississippi, under Jim Crow.
Mm,
Do you really think they were going to be attorneys, doctors?
mm,
Do
mm,
you really think they were going to be executives of Dow Chemicals?
mm.
Hello? That avenue wasn't open to them.
Come
Now,
on.
how dare me as a young man tell my mother, you know what, Mom? I had to buy my own 5-speed and with the banana seat with the shocks on it. I'm just saying, I had to buy that myself because you don't have the doctorate degree as Dr. Garrison has.
Mm,
And you should have gone to school and got that so you could get me stuff. Instead of saying, I understand where you came from, Mom. And I thank you for sacrificing all that you have, working 2, 3 jobs, just so we can
say
get
that
these watches,
again.
wear blue
Say,
jeans.
say that again, sir.
See, you hear what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
entitlement, the lack of
Oh
accountability
my gosh, it's
and
entitlement.
responsibility here's our dilemma. And partly I believe, this is just me, they can all throw eggs at me when they see me instead of you. This is my comment, is that attitude that you just shared, that we wanted better for our kids than we had when some of the main ingredients of what they were giving us, that they were teaching us, got lost in that shuffle. I'll never substitute developing humility and gratitude with my loved ones, with my nieces, nephews, my daughter, my grandkids. Never. They'll always have to get lessons in those areas as long as I'm alive. And I've
Hold
done
on. Hold on, Mr. Scott. A lot of stuff coming up. Trill Washington Bates. Thank you, Cedric. Such great information being shared. I wish more people were online to hear things. Um, thank you, Trill. Um, this will be replayed over and over again. So if you know somebody that needs to hear this information, if you go to M106 or 103.7 Facebook site, this will be replayed over again. Another thing from Houston, Texas, great point. How do you know I have a mental I have mental problems?
I don't know. I never met you. I'm just kidding.
And one more thing before you answer that, from Linda Morvines, told you to preach about that entitlement thing.
Awesome.
Because talk a little bit. This generation is a little different than our generation. Like you said, we had to work for clothing, and we had to work for different things, and we got entitlement. But before you address that, Michael Anthony Smith from Texas, how do you know I have mental problems? Me,
Well,
I'm asking. How do you know? How
okay.
should I know?
That's a good question. Excellent question. Uh, what are the first things that happen to us as we're children? We're normed. You know what I mean by norming? It's normal, the normal course of day-to-day interaction. I meet you on the street, I make contact with you, give you, that's our neighborhood thing. That's what does that mean? What's up? Hey,
What's up?
how you
What's
doing?
up?
Normal course of interaction. So I don't do that anymore. When I see you, I start swearing at you. Or I see you and I duck down from you. I see you and my
Say
disposition
that.
changes.
Say that. Keep on going because people, their heads down, they're looking at their phones. The act of communication of just saying hello or that quick nod
Mhm.
is
Right.
almost lost.
Right. And I'm not talking about what we call in psychology idiosyncrasies. We all have those. Those are the weird, quirky things we do. I got
Mhm.
them, got tons of them. But they're not to the point of severe antisocial interactions, severe isolating interactions, severe demeaning, marginalizing, undervaluing capacity. Those are, you have some antisocial, psychotic, sociopathic, non interactive type of behaviors that you'll see in people, and irrational beliefs to the 25th power, severe power,
Mhm.
imaginary friends, imaginary beliefs. Look at Agent Orange, number 45. Election was stolen. lies, lies, lies. Do you think that's healthy? And that's what happens when clearly there is no accountability, clearly no responsibility. Born with $500 million, the world revolves around me, selfish to the 25th power. And now we look at severe repercussions from those belief systems. You can see it from day to day. And that's what happens, the evolution of our antisocial, non-conforming personality traits.
Mm. Back to Michael, he said, and these kids translate that as possessions, things, and stuff. I want to get to Trill Washington Bates. I'm definitely going to share this. Thank you. So we're getting a lot of comments. I'm just trying to get them in. So I
Great,
want to
great.
go.
That's fine. And it's good to hear from those people. I know all those people you mentioned.
I want to get back to addressing the fact that when do I sit up and say, you know what, it's time for me to get some help?
Oftentimes, it doesn't just happen overnight. Oftentimes, it's a combination of things that you've done and said to many people who made them wonder, "Whoa, that was a little different." He's not sounding himself. Greg's not looking himself. His hygiene's
It's
deplorable.
hygiene, right?
His hygiene is deplorable. He was never like that. He was always groomed. He always spoke when we interacted, and he was always respectful, and he didn't isolate. Something's going on. Now, you don't know what that mental illness is, but you know there's something going on. Maybe the person's not severely mental ill. They're just something diminishing their capacity for this moment. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why everyone run away from being for having discussions and diagnoses or interactions with people like me. Because first thing what they say is, well, I'm going to go around Cedric. He's going to be analyzing me, and he's going to find out what's wrong with me. I got some things wrong with me. Well, rest assured, a professional understands that we all have idiosyncrasies, those little quirky things we do. And everything isn't severe enough for a mental health disorder. If you're not debilitating in your day-to-day life and your capacity to nurture a healthy living experience from day to day, then there's no way I diagnose you. In this book, you have to have diminished capacities, which that simply means that you can't take care of yourself. You're doing things that are lawless, irresponsible, dangerous, etc., etc. So there shouldn't be that high degree of worry about, well, I'm going to go talk to someone, but if I talk to them, I know they're going to say I got something wrong with me. So oftentimes I leave a lot of money on the table because there's no diagnosis.
Yeah. Talk about we bearing a lot of the things that we went through as a child, and now we're grown up, and we find out those things that we had as a child we never addressed.
Absolutely. Part of my graduate thesis was based upon that. I argued that our environments as a child did cultivate and add to support childhood disorders, oppositional conduct, those type of disorders in their learning environments, their home environments, their parental structures, et cetera, et cetera. And so he gave me an A on the paper. Some of the diagnostic statistical data supports some of that criteria. So there must be some truth to what I postulated, one of those $5 words.
That $5 word. I appreciate that word.
And it's my belief after 27 years doing this that there is some legitimate truth to that the environment and childhood experiences are supported. Support some of our current issues. Unresolved grief, unresolved abuse, sexual traumas, etc., especially sexual trauma.
Domestic violence in the home that you know
all the time you're seeing that.
You seeing
got
that.
You racing. Got that? Remember that norepinephrine I was sharing with you earlier? That fight or flight chemical have you racing, on edge, irritable as early as 2 years old. What do you think happened? Norepinephrine is just the byproduct of that is cortisol, poison. That's the stuff that runs through your stream, your bloodstream, your heart, et cetera, et cetera. And it's destructive in your neurological capacity, on and on. We talk, you get a lot of that feedback and information now. If you look out there on the website about trauma, unresolved trauma, what happens to you as a adolescent and how it affects you as a young adult, et cetera, adult, on and on. And so there's a lot of truth to it, very much so, and been proven and substantiated over the course of the studies and years.
I think about my dad, who he lost his mom when he was 2 months old.
Trauma.
And he grew up with 11 siblings with my grandfather, and how he never got a chance of that nurturing from a woman. And when he got older, it hurt him because he didn't necessarily know how to deal with his wife.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we deal with these things and we hide these things.
Mm-hmm. You see how that over the course of his years of growth, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and you imagine coming up in that environment, if it was unhealthy, no lack of nurturing, lack of these dialogues, is which we're having today, hearing information and being taught how to respond to your anger, taught how to respond to your shame, your guilt, your fear. Learning, these are all learning processes that occur as early as 2 years old.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Right. Come on. I'm shamed. I feel guilt because I don't have what the Joneses have. Insecurities. A fragile man or woman because of these things over the course of a lifetime.
Okay, we got 11 minutes. Wow. And I know this conversation went so fast, and I appreciate it. How do we get, I'm severely depressed, or I'm heading that way and I'm in the holidays? How do I get through this time, and how do I better myself during this time?
Perfect timing to contact a professional. And you can contact Lazarus Man Consulting off a perfect time for me to pin my business. But also, the website is full of opportunities to explore other counselors, techniques.
Well, you're going to love this, because this is Linda Moore. She says, "Are you charging for this session? LOL. Seriously, this is valuable information."
No, that's my friend Greg. Greg knows this is my dialogue. Whenever we have these sessions, we talk a lot of fun stuff as well, but he knows that this is something I live by. This is not just a job. This is my lifestyle. Trying to share as much information as I can about what I've learned over the course of 27 years in psychology, counseling, substance abuse treatment, etc., with anyone who will listen, quite frankly. And no, I'm not getting paid for this today. As a matter of fact, I'm losing money right now talking to him. So, but it clearly you're not going to get rich doing what I'm doing. And oftentimes I do this because of the love of what I'm doing and the care for the people that I'm working with. So I get blessed for in many other avenues, as far as I'm concerned. But as far as finding and reaching out, Lazarus Man Consulting, go online if you can. I have a website, lazarusman.com. Also there, see me on Facebook, Lazarus Man Consulting at facebook.com. There's a lot of educational material I stream out on that Facebook page that you could contact other agencies and information. One of the things I want to do on my Facebook page is I want to stream tons and tons of information on that Facebook page from some of the places like SAMHSA, some of the places like PTSD.com, places like that, where you have the National Health Institution, where you got a lot of learning information, interactive learning information, contact information, where you can do it in your privacy of your own home, and you can almost assess yourself. I want to advise you to do that and give yourself a diagnosis, but at least assess that information to see if any of it refers to you and what you're experiencing. Then contact someone. This is let me just say this, and if you trust me that much, counseling is not just for the severely mentally ill.
Will you please say that again?
Counseling, it is not, and I'm not trying to be cliche-ish here. I promise you. Counseling is not, when you come in here, if you can find any of my patients after a counseling session with me and you ask them, what was counseling like? And they're going to say, well, you know, really? And I pray to God they say this, but it really wasn't like counseling. And if you're doing it right, if you're providing this service right, you should not walk out of here feeling that way. Stuffy.
That's a good point. I want you to talk about that a little bit, because not every counselor is for every person.
Absolutely.
So they said seek out the right one.
There you go. That's why the website, you know, and some of the learning information is good for you, because you can see a little bit more of what you think you need, and you can see more professionals out there. Just me. Clearly, I'm going to pin my name as much as I can, but in honesty, I am not one size fits all. I am not, and I would never purport to be that way. So go out, explore my webpage, dig in some of the information if you want, and make certain that after you've done that, you like it. But so get back to me if you want to. I'm just kidding.
I have one more. How important is this for adults to be transparent? That's instead of being like their life was perfect. How important is it to be transparent with their kids today?
I can't
Go
express it enough. But some things, not all, and you know, there's some private areas of your life that maybe your children don't need to hear.
Mhm.
But for the most part, especially if you see their experience and some of the things that you've already experienced, I would highly advise you to have a conversation, create a dialogue, and share some of those things with them so that they understand. Well, then, mom, dad, how did you go through it? What did you do? Now
Mhm.
you're the expert, so to speak. Here's what I did, and I got better from it. Here's what I did or didn't do, and I didn't get better from it. So now I'm suggesting you see someone or do some different things. Let's work it out together. Let's figure it out together. Families are teams. Just as team orientation.
Yes.
My one of the biggest pet peeves in my house is kids. I have a stepson, and he came in and thinking that he wasn't necessarily part of the team, but he soon learned he was, because garbage was now his responsibility.
Said
Grass was not his responsibility.
pass the plate. Preach,
Now
brother.
my
Preach.
responsibility was to feed and clothe him and show him some entertainment, give him some cash. But everyone in the household has to participate. We're a team together. Now I ain't gonna preach today, but you get my point. So yes, it's very important that parents have open, transparent relationship with their kids. You're not perfect. You're flawed. All of us are. I have one daughter that I can contribute to raising that way. And first, as soon as she was old enough to listen, I would let her know. No, maybe that was a bad idea, but it was the only idea I had at the time. Like, you know, let's try something else.
We have
Life goes on.
we just have a couple more minutes. Start taking stuff off the pile.
Okay.
It's really not that important. It's really not that important. You know, because we're putting pressure or we're putting things on ourselves. Is it really important to be trying to keep up with the Joneses?
Absolutely not. This is a consumer country. United States is a capitalist country. It's based upon consumerism, spending money. The commercials from everything you see is designed to put that pressure on you to purchase and buy. It's not that important. It's not that critical. If you have all you need, then what you want doesn't necessarily matter whether you live or die. Am I right or wrong? Therefore, if I can eliminate some of those wants, postpone some of those wants, what happens to that pressure, that anxiety that I'm experiencing? And I got news for you. The older you get, the less you're gonna want that crap anyway.
Well, well. We're gonna pass the plate. Mr. Scott, we got 4 minutes. And there's somebody out there that, man, is struggling. They're struggling. What should they do? What can I do as a friend
Well, you can support them. You can support them. I'm sorry, but that's what happens at 3:00. So
Yeah.
You can support them by offering your support, being there for them, offering your resources, the ability to communicate to them, direct them, I should say, to somewhere that they can receive the professional services they need, etc. That's the best you can do in terms of supporting. If they're not willing to receive it right now, that direction right now, support them until they do.
Give us your information again, because I know you have something at 3.
Cedric Scott here at LazarusMan.com. You can email me at cscott, CSCOTT, at LazarusMan.com. And that's LazarusMan.com.
You have a phone number?
231-740-2401. And let me give you also the front desk out there. You will receive a return call ASAP. 231-747-6197. And there's my connects.
Thank you, sir. I know you have to leave. We appreciate it. We're going to have another conversation soon. You take care.
I look forward to it.
Have a great holiday.
Thanks for having me on. You too. Take care.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Cedric Scott of Lazarus. I want to I have 1 minute. Just because you went through a lot of stuff in your life, you don't need to, like Erykah Badu said, bag lady, you're carrying too much baggage. You know what? Get the help that you need. It is nothing wrong with saying that I'm struggling mentally. It's no reason for you to go through the stresses of life with all those bags. I just think it's critically important for you to move on, is to get that help that you need. Well, that's the end of the show. And I really want to thank you guys. The next time you'll hear me next week, I'll be not 56 anymore. I'll be 57 and hopefully a year wiser. Listen, you've been watching and listening to Torn in Two. I want to thank the staff here. You take care and God bless.
The second annual I Am Her Feminine Hygiene Drive, supporting young ladies from Ghana, Africa, in need